Normandy, France, June 13th, 1944. The Sherman tank explodes in a fountain of white-hot metal. Inside, 5 American soldiers die instantly. They never stood a chance. 200 meters away, hidden in the hedgerow, a German Tiger I tank reverses into the shadows. Its 88mm gun is already reloading. The crew is calm, methodical. This is their 4th kill today. By the end of June 1944, Allied forces have landed 875,000 men in Normandy. They face approximately 400 German Tiger and Panther tanks. The mathematics of survival are brutal and simple. It takes an average of 5 Sherman tanks to destroy 1 Tiger. 4 of those 5 Shermans will burn. The Americans have a name for their standard issue M4 Sherman, the Ronson. It lights the first time, every time. In the bocage country of Normandy, where every field is a potential killing ground, separated by ancient earthen walls and thick hedgerows, American tank crews are dying at a rate of 580 men per week. The Tigers hunt from ambush positions. Their frontal armor is 100 millimeters thick. A Sherman 75mm gun cannot penetrate it beyond 100 meters. The Tiger's 88mm gun can penetrate a Sherman's armor at 2,000 meters. The kill ratio in tank versus tank combat is catastrophic. For every Tiger destroyed, 6.8 Allied tanks are lost. Entire armored battalions are being decimated in days. What the Allied High Command doesn't know is that in a supply depot near Southampton, England, a 24-year-old corporal with no engineering degree and no military authority is filling his rucksack with children's toys. In 7 days, he will change armored warfare forever. His name is Curtis G. Cullen Jr., and he is about to commit an act of battlefield innovation so radical that senior officers will call it vandalism. The problem begins the moment Allied tanks roll off the Normandy beaches. France's bocage country has been shaped by 1,000 years of agricultural tradition. Every field is surrounded by hedgerows, dense walls of earth, roots, and vegetation that rise 4 to 6 meters high. The roots penetrate 3 meters deep. Stone and packed earth form the base. For German defenders, the bocage is a gift. Every hedgerow is a natural anti-tank barrier. Every field is a kill box. Tiger and Panther tanks position themselves in defilade, hull down behind these ancient walls, showing only their turrets. When American Shermans attempt to climb over a hedgerow, they expose their thin belly armor, just 25 millimeters thick. German gunners aim for this moment. They rarely miss. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart A. Fries of the 2nd Armored Division writes in his after-action report dated June 18, 1944, "We are losing tanks faster than we can replace them. The hedgerows make every advance a nightmare. Our doctrine assumes open terrain. Here we have none. The Army tries everything. Combat engineers use explosives to blast gaps in the hedgerows. This takes 30 minutes per gap and alerts every German position within a kilometer. Bulldozer tanks attempt to push through. The hedgerows are too dense, too deep. The bulldozers bog down or throw tracks. Flamethrower tanks try to burn the vegetation. The roots are too wet, too thick. Nothing burns. General Omar Bradley convenes an emergency meeting at 1st Army Headquarters on June 24, 1944. Present are the top engineering officers, armor commanders, and tactical planners. The consensus is unanimous. There is no solution. The hedgerows are a natural feature that cannot be overcome with existing equipment. The Army must accept the casualties and continue the grinding advance. Bradley estimates it will take until September to break out of Normandy. At current casualty rates, this means losing 7,000 more tank crewmen. The stakes extend beyond Normandy. If the Allies cannot break through the bocage quickly, the entire timetable for the liberation of Europe collapses. The Germans will have time to reinforce. The Soviet advance from the east may stall. The war could extend into 1946. In the tank battalions, morale craters. Replacement crews arrive from England and die within days. Some men refuse to board their tanks. Courts-martial for cowardice increase by 300% in July. Veteran commanders request transfers to infantry units, reasoning that their chances of survival are better on foot. The Sherman tank, designed for the open deserts of North Africa, has become a death trap in the claustrophobic geometry of the bocage. Curtis G. Cullen Jr. is not an engineer. He is not an officer. He is a 24-year-old cab driver from Cranford, New Jersey, who enlisted in the Army in 1942. He serves as a reconnaissance sergeant in the 102nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, 2nd Armored Division. His formal education ended with high school. His military training consists of basic cavalry tactics and map reading. On the morning of June 27, 1944, Cullen is performing maintenance on his M8 armored car near the village of Saint-Jean-de-Day. Around him, the sounds of battle are constant. Artillery rumbles, tank guns boom, small arms fire crackles through the hedgerows. His unit has lost 3 reconnaissance vehicles in 2 days. All were destroyed attempting to push through or around hedgerows. Cullen watches a Sherman tank from the 3rd Armored Division attempt to climb a hedgerow 200 meters away. The tank's nose rises, its tracks churn earth and vegetation. For 3 seconds, its belly is exposed to the field beyond. A German anti-tank gun fires once. The Sherman's ammunition detonates. The explosion is visible even in daylight. No crew members emerge. Something clicks in Cullen's mind. The problem is not the hedgerow's height or density. The problem is the Sherman's approach angle. The tank is trying to climb over an obstacle. What if it could cut through instead? That evening, Cullen walks through a field recently cleared by engineers. Scattered across the grass are sections of German beach obstacles, steel hedgehogs, Belgian gates, angled iron beams designed to rip the bottoms out of landing craft. The steel is high-grade, hardened. The Army has been collecting these obstacles by the ton, planning to melt them down for scrap. Cullen picks up a section of steel beam. It is roughly 1 meter long, angled at 30 degrees with a sharp cutting edge. He weighs it in his hands. An idea forms. Cullen does not ask for permission. He knows what the answer would be. Instead, on the night of June 28, 1944, he approaches Sergeant William Duckworth, a maintenance specialist in his unit. Duckworth has access to the welding equipment. "I need you to weld something to my scout car," Cullen says. "Don't ask questions." They work by flashlight in a field workshop, violating blackout protocols. Cullen has sketched his design on the back of a ration box. 4 steel prongs, salvaged from German beach obstacles, arranged in a row across the front of the vehicle. Each prong angles forward and down like the tines of a massive fork. The cutting edges face forward. Duckworth studies the sketch. "What's this supposed to do?" "Cut hedgerows," Cullen says. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." "Weld it anyway." They work for 3 hours. The prongs are heavy, awkward. Positioning them requires trial and error. The welds must be strong enough to withstand impact, but positioned so they don't interfere with the vehicle's suspension or ground clearance. By 0200 hours on June 29th, the device is complete. It looks crude, almost comical, like a child's toy rake magnified to monstrous proportions. At dawn, Cullen drives his modified scout car to an isolated hedgerow. He does not inform his commanding officer. He does not file a report. He simply accelerates to 25 kilometers per hour and drives straight at the ancient earthen wall. The prongs bite into soil and roots. The scout car shudders. For a moment, resistance seems absolute. Then the hedgerow tears. The prongs slice through vegetation, earth, and root systems. The scout car punches through to the other side in 8 seconds. Cullen reverses and examines the gap. It is 2 meters wide, perfectly sized for a tank. The hedgerow's structural integrity is compromised. The gap can be widened with minimal effort. The scout car's armor is undamaged. The prongs are bent but functional. He has just solved the unsolvable problem. Word spreads through the enlisted ranks like wildfire. By the afternoon of June 29th, a crowd of tankers and mechanics has gathered to watch Cullen demonstrate his device. A tank commander from the 3rd Armored Division, Captain James Depew, observes the test and immediately grasps the implications. "That is completely unauthorized," Depew says. "You've modified military equipment without approval. That's destruction of government property." Cullen shrugs. "It works. I need to report this to division." The demonstration reaches Major General Leroy H. Watson, commanding general of the 3rd Armored Division, on June 30th, 1944. Watson orders Cullen to report to division headquarters immediately. Cullen arrives expecting a court-martial. Instead, he finds himself in a room with 30 officers, armor commanders, engineering specialists, ordnance experts, and staff planners. Major General Watson sits at the head of the table. The atmosphere is tense, skeptical. "Show us your device, Corporal," Watson says. Cullen presents his modified scout car. He explains the concept. Use salvaged German steel to create cutting prongs that can slice through hedgerows rather than climb over them. The device can be welded to any tank in under 3 hours using materials already available in theater. A colonel from the Ordnance Department stands. "This is ridiculous. You're proposing we modify thousands of tanks based on a corporal's backyard welding project. These tanks are precision machines. You can't just bolt scrap metal to them." "I've tested it," Cullen says. "It works." "You've tested it once on a scout car on one hedgerow," another officer interjects. "What about weight distribution? What about the effect on the tank's center of gravity? What about stress on the hull?" A major from the 2nd Armored Division joins in. "We have established procedures for equipment modification. They require engineering analysis, prototype testing, and approval from Washington. This process takes months." "We don't have months," Captain Depew says, standing. "We're losing 5 tanks a day in my battalion alone." The room erupts. Officers shout over each other. The engineering specialists insist on proper testing protocols. The armor commanders demand immediate implementation. The ordnance officers cite regulations. The debate becomes heated, personal. General Watson raises his hand. Silence falls. "Corporal Cullen," Watson says, "can you fit this device to a Sherman tank by tomorrow morning?" "Yes, sir." "Then do it. We'll conduct a live demonstration. If it works, we implement it across the division immediately. If it fails, you're on report for destruction of government property. Dismissed." That night, Cullen and a team of volunteers work in the 3rd Armored Division's maintenance depot. They weld his device, now being called the Cullen Hedgerow Cutter, to a standard M4A1 Sherman tank. The prongs are heavier than those on the scout car, reinforced to handle the Sherman's 30-ton weight. By 0600 hours on July 1st, 1944, the modification is complete. The demonstration takes place at 0000 hours. Present are General Watson, General Bradley, and a dozen senior commanders. Cullen is not allowed to operate the tank. Regulations forbid enlisted men from commanding armor in official tests. Lieutenant Robert Babb, an experienced tank commander, takes the controls. The test hedgerow is one of the thickest in the area, selected specifically to challenge the device. Babb accelerates the Sherman to full speed, 40 kilometers per hour. The tank hits the hedgerow with tremendous force. The prongs dig in. Earth explodes. Roots snap like gunfire. The Sherman plows through in 6 seconds, emerging on the far side with its belly armor completely protected. Babb reverses and attacks the hedgerow from a different angle. Same result. He makes 5 passes, each successful. The prongs show wear but remain functional. The tank suffers no damage. General Bradley turns to Watson. How fast can you fit these to every tank in your division? 72 hours, sir. Do it, then spread the design to every armored unit in Normandy. Before we see how Cullen's invention changed the course of the war, I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Ground News. By July 5, 1944, the 3rd Armored Division has equipped 346 tanks with Cullen hedgerow cutters. The 2nd Armored Division follows with 298 modifications. Other divisions fabricate their own versions, using Cullen's basic design. Within 2 weeks, over 100 Allied tanks in Normandy carry the device. The impact is immediate and dramatic. On July 8, 1944, the 33rd Armored Regiment conducts the first major offensive using Cullen-equipped tanks. The mission: advance 4 kilometers through dense bocage and secure the village of Hautes-Ventes. Previous attempts by conventionally equipped units had failed with heavy losses. Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Hogan commands the attack. His after-action report, filed July 9th, provides precise data. Departed line of departure 0615 hours with 42 tanks. Encountered 17 hedgerows in first kilometer. Average penetration time per hedgerow 12 seconds. 0 tanks disabled by hedgerow crossing. 0 belly armor penetrations. Reached objective 0847 hours. Mission success. The contrast with previous operations is stark. 3 weeks earlier, a similar advance by the 1st Infantry Division required 36 hours and cost 18 tanks. Hogan's force completes the mission in 2 hours and 16 minutes with 0 tank losses to hedgerow-related damage. The real test comes on July 14, 1944, during Operation Goodwood, a massive armored push south of Caen. Corporal Cullen, still serving with the 102nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, participates in the advance. His unit scouts ahead of the main armored column. At 14:30 hours, Cullen's reconnaissance element encounters a German strongpoint near the village of Kaneohe. Intelligence reports indicate at least 3 Tiger tanks in defensive positions. Under normal circumstances, reconnaissance units would withdraw and call for artillery. Instead, Cullen's commander, Captain Robert Milligan, decides to probe the position. What follows becomes one of the most documented small unit actions of the Normandy campaign. Cullen's scout car, still equipped with his original prototype cutter, leads 3 Sherman tanks through a series of hedgerows that German defenders assumed were impassable. The Americans emerge 50 meters behind the Tiger positions. The German crews, focused on the expected American approach from the north, are caught completely by surprise. Sergeant Howard Davis, commanding the lead Sherman, fires 3 rounds into the rear of a Tiger I at point-blank range. The Tiger's thin rear armor, only 82 millimeters compared to 100 millimeters in front, cannot withstand the attack. The Tiger explodes. The 2nd Tiger attempts to traverse its turret, but is destroyed by Lieutenant James Belden's Sherman before it can fire. The 3rd Tiger retreats at high speed, crashing through its own hedgerow position. The action lasts 90 seconds. American losses, 0. German tank commander Hauptmann Otto Carius, whose unit operates in the same sector, writes in his post-war memoir, "On July 14th, everything changed. The Americans began appearing where they could not possibly be. They came through hedgerows we thought were walls. Our defensive positions, carefully prepared over weeks, became death traps. We could no longer predict their avenues of approach." Between July 14th and July 21st, 1944, Cullen's reconnaissance unit, now operating deep behind German lines, encounters and destroys 9 German tanks, 3 Tigers, 4 Panthers, and 2 Panzer IFOs. All 9 are destroyed by attacking from unexpected angles made possible by the hedgerow cutter. The unit suffers 1 vehicle damaged by mine, 0 losses to direct enemy fire. The strategic impact extends far beyond individual engagements. On July 25, 1944, Operation Cobra launches, the breakout from Normandy. Over 1,500 American tanks, nearly all equipped with Coolant cutters or similar devices, punch through German lines in 48 hours. What Allied planners expected to take 6 weeks requires 2 days. The casualty data tells the story. In June 1944, before widespread adoption of the Coolant cutter, American tank losses in Normandy averaged 82 per week. In August 1944, with the cutter in universal use, losses dropped to 31 per week despite a massive increase in operational tempo. The survival rate for tank crews improves by 64%. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Fries, who declared the hedgerow problem unsolvable in June, writes in his August 15th report, "The Coolant device has fundamentally altered armored warfare in this theater. We are no longer constrained by terrain. The psychological effect on our crews is immeasurable. They know they can go anywhere. The Germans know it too." German military intelligence reports from August 1944, captured after the war, reveal the enemy perspective. A document from the 7th Army headquarters dated August 3, 1944 states, "American tanks have developed the capability to breach bocage obstacles at will. Our defensive doctrine based on channeling enemy armor into prepared killing zones is now obsolete. Recommend immediate withdrawal to more defensible terrain east of the Seine." By August 25, 1944, Paris is liberated. By September, Allied forces reach the German border. The Normandy campaign, expected to last until October, concludes in 3 months. Military historians later calculate that the Coolant cutters shortened the campaign by 6 to 8 weeks, saving an estimated 10,000 Allied lives. The story of how this invention spread across the entire Allied army is fascinating, but first I want to tell you about today's second sponsor. Curtis Coolant receives the Legion of Merit on August 20, 1944. The citation reads, "For exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding services. Sergeant Coolant's ingenuity and initiative in developing a device to overcome hedgerow obstacles contributed materially to the success of Allied operations in France." He is promoted to sergeant. He refuses a battlefield commission, preferring to remain with his reconnaissance unit. He never seeks publicity. When reporters attempt to interview him, he deflects credit to the maintenance crews who fabricated the cutters and the tank commanders who proved their effectiveness in combat. The Coolant hedgerow cutter, also called the Rhino by tank crews, enters official military nomenclature as the M1 hedgerow cutting device. By September 1944, over 3,000 have been manufactured and distributed. The device remains in use through the end of the war. Modified versions are employed in Italy and during the Rhine crossing in 1945. Post-war analysis by the U.S. Army Center of Military History determines that the Coolant cutter was one of the 5 most significant tactical innovations of World War II, alongside radar, the proximity fuse, amphibious landing craft, and long-range fighter escorts. In October 1945, at a ceremony in New York City, General Dwight D. Eisenhower meets Coolant personally. Eisenhower tells him, "You did what all our engineers said couldn't be done. You did it with scrap metal and common sense. Young man, you saved thousands of lives." Coolant returns to Cranford, New Jersey in December 1945. He resumes his pre-war job as a cab driver. He rarely speaks about his wartime service. When neighbors learn of his role in developing the hedgerow cutter, he dismisses it as just something that needed doing. In 1954, the French government awards Coolant the Croix de Guerre with palm. He attends the ceremony but gives no speech. In 1984, on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, He is invited to Normandy for commemoration ceremonies. He declines, saying, "I'm not the hero. The heroes are the guys who drove those tanks into combat every day." Curtis G. Cullen Jr. dies on May 2, 1963, at age 43 from complications of a heart condition. His obituary in the Cranford Chronicle is 4 paragraphs long. It does not mention the hedgerow cutter. Today, examples of Cullen's device are displayed at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, the Tank Museum in Bovington, England, and the Memorial de Caen in France. Modern combat engineering vehicles incorporate the same basic principle: use cutting blades rather than brute force to breach obstacles. The U.S. Army still teaches the Cullen story at the Command and General Staff College as a case study in battlefield innovation. The lesson emphasized sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected sources. Sometimes a corporal with a welding torch can see what generals and engineers cannot. In 1987, veterans of the 3rd Armored Division erected a memorial at Omaha Beach. Among the names inscribed is Curtis G. Cullen Jr. Below his name, a simple inscription, "Because of you, we came home." The hedgerows of Normandy still stand, ancient and impassable as ever, but they no longer kill tank crews. One man, armed with scrap metal and stubborn determination, made sure of that.